Yet you really want to build the bridges so badly that you want to build them apart. All right,
although having divergent views does not necessarily mean that it separates.
No. Divergent views are brilliant. All democracies thrive on the divergence of opinions huddled together. But that is why I insist there is no problem with them coming together as Murkomen did, marshalling their supporters, if at all, to also attend these rallies, and on that same platform declare that we are one, headed to the same direction with divergent opinions on this and this issue. If I put Didymus to task here and now to tell me what he feels is problematic with the BBI proposals that have been made and why he cannot voice them in the rallies, why he was not, for example, in Buhungu, where he is a big name. I've been with him on radio shows. I know the people down there love him. Why didn't you show up to give your express opinion? You must not be cantankerous, or you must not be abusive. You can still be as wise to deliver your opinion as Murkomen did.
Let me give an example.
There is something that I want you to respond to. Yes. That I will partly answer his question. That I also want you to weigh in. Yeah. Because you people, you are becoming mischievous. Contrary to what Kenyans have made to believe, the group that is opposing the BBI-1 is the group that is ODM. They are opposing BBI-1 because they have gone in rallies suggesting different things, which were not initially contained.
Just to be clear, so that we are not confused and we don't confuse the audience, is there a BBI-2?
BBI-2 is coming. I say so because, let me qualify what I'm saying. The document which was launched at Bomas by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, whose contents, as we said, we all agree with them, that had a prime minister whose position is similar to the one held by Aden Duale. It did not have a proposal of a three-tier government. It did not have a proposal of a powerful prime minister. Then they have gone into all their meetings. Their proposal number 1, executive prime minister. Proposal number 2, third-tier government, where we're going to have regional governors. So it is the ODM that were mischievously opposed to that BBI-1 because it appeared to be our document, which we are not the one who wrote that document.
Okay,
so I want you to tell the country that when you are doing these meetings, there is no mention of the content of the original BBI, that they are using these meetings as an avenue to suggest fresh recommendations that are now will form the BBI document that they will support.
Give him a chance to answer your question.
First of all, my friend, siasa haitaki makasiriko, so you know, if you say it politely, the microphone will amplify. Siasa haitaki makasiriko. So first of all, I'll come to the issue of BBI and BBI-2. I want to say, emphasize what David has said, and I was in Kisii. I'll give you the example of my good friend from Korea called Marwa Kitayama. Marwa came there, and in spite of what looked like a very unpopular proposal to create a county separate from Migori County for the Koreas, the guy spent 15 minutes in spite of what looked like a very unpopular decision, and he said it so politely, and he said it so emphatically, to the extent that the prime minister who was seated there actually urged him on and said, proceed. And the master of ceremony was trying to tell him, imetosha. The prime minister said, go on. I left there with a lot of respect from somebody who is leaning towards William Ruto, because he came right in the middle of what they're trying to cast as an ODM BBI-led thing, and emphatically made his position. I would love it that you did do what Murkomen did until he made a 360 in Naivasha. This process is sanctioned by the president. Trust me, C.S. Matiang'i would not have been in Kisii if the president was not aware. CS Eugene Wamalwa would not have been in Bukungu if the president was not aware. This BBI task force was immediately then also gazetted. The platform that you now call the ODM Raila-led BBI is the Uhuru BBI. There is no BBI other than that one. Number two, is there a
BBI 2?
A BBI 2 or BBI 1? This is my understanding. A good reading of the BBI report suggests to me that there was an attempt, and a very good attempt, to evaluate what besets us as a country. And they put it within the context of the 9 issues. And they said, these are possible suggestions and solutions in terms of recommendation. So there was nothing cast in stone that BBI had said, we are now taking the position that let's go parliamentary or presidential, prime minister, whether weak or strong. Those were very general suggestions to generate debate. So there is nobody departing from anything, because the reason why it has gone to phase 2 was because they needed to put something that could trigger us then to agree or disagree. We may even completely say we do not want the recommendations of changing or tampering with the presidential system. Let me finalize by saying this. The draft that started off at the Yashpal Gai-led CKRC constitution, the one that went into Bomas, which was pure presidential, the one that mutated into the Wako draft, and the one that eventually went into Naivasha, were totally different things. If we were to use your argument that BBI recommendations is the BBI, we do not want to, we are the ones opposing or accepting.
Of course.
We would never have had this
He has
constitution.
answered my question.
We would never have had this constitution.
The Yashpai Guy document that left Bomas and went to Naivasha and it changed along the way, it changed because we have some people who could not agree with it. And I want to tell the nation that ODM did a memoranda to the Haji-led committee, and that their proposal contained, among other things, a powerful prime minister and a 3-tier government. But when the Haji-led committee were compiling recommendations from all the Kenyans, your proposal, your ODM proposal, appeared to be a minority proposal. That's why it was thrown out. Because when you are compiling a report, you incorporate the recommendations that are coming from the majority of Kenyans. So majority of Kenyans do not want a powerful prime minister.
So why are you worried that the debate should be, why are you worried about the debate if eventually the majority will take its place?
All right.
Allow
So you
people
have
to make the
confirmed to me that indeed your group. Gentlemen, we need to wind up. We are out of time. I'll need your closing remarks. I'll start with you, Joseph. A minute, please, because we are really out of time.
Fair enough. First,
closing remarks.
What we've just seen here, it's important that I touch a little bit on the BBI, sir. What we've just seen here is symptomatic of what is happening in society. That while the BBI one lacked a lot of contentious issues, the politicians have now taken over this process. You do not hear about the BBI secretariat that was gazetted. You do not see them in these rallies. It is the politicians who are addressing a political problem that was not captured well in BBI 1. And for that reason, the conversations that go on today, and yesterday, there's a gentleman, Kalonzo Musyoka, who said something in Machakos, that let's remove the term limits of governors. He wasn't talking out of naivety. If you listen to that clip in totality, he was saying there is a certain proposal of creating a 3rd-tier government, a 3rd-tier regional government, such that the counties of Machakos, Kitui, Makueni report to somebody else on top. And this thing, people will reject it. If these retiring governors have gotten to a point where they cannot agree to retire and they want to create a 3rd tier to satisfy their ego, why don't you remove the term limit and make them comfortable? Of course, there are the many prudent suggestions you would have bought. But at that time and in his speech, what he wanted to cover, which I thought was addressing, if this BBI 2 that is going to come will pass, the moment you include a 3rd tier thing, the majority of people on the ground will not accept it. If these governors want, that's a conversation. It means we are creating space, one, for second-term governors who somehow are feeling desperate, do not know where to proceed to. Secondly, we are expanding the executive because the center, all of a sudden, the center cannot hold. These two people can't manage. So we need to expand. Something that makes sense in the short term, but in the long term, it will be 5 versus 37. Now, we need to retake this conversation back to Mwananchi. It
The
needs
question
to
is, okay, and the question, of course, will be how. David, your closing remarks, a minute, please.
Well, there's so much to say in so little time. But I think, one, congratulations to the Senate for bolstering the war against graft by their action. That was decisive and that was good. That was progressive for country. And that was a declaration that indeed they need to have the bragging rights of being the upper house. Two, BBI, what we are seeing around the BBI is headed towards a proposed bill. It is not in finality. And that is why I persuade Didymus and friends. Just go and say it, because the task force will still receive your views, whether you hold a complementary parallel rally or state these things in these same events. Never mind, what they call rallies are different from the previous days or earlier before those rallies are done. There are deliberation caucuses and conferences and workshops where these things are stated rather deeply. Now, go there and put them across. The task force will still put them down. Eventually, they will sift through and see what needs to get into the bill for a possible referendum. That's how you truly build bridges. If that's not done, then we are already pitting the country against itself. You need to understand that in an ethnocentric country where tribe comes before merit, in our context called Kenya, there needs to be a well thought out manner in which power will not divide Kenya anymore. And if they have a brilliant way of doing it that is different from the propositions by the other faction, let it be put forward in these same places so that we don't look like we've already put the country on a mode that is repulsive and on a fighting ground.
All right, Didymus, your closing remarks, please.
I want to tell Kenyans that the position of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the party leader of Jubilee, is that Kenyans must give their views to better the BBI report. Now, the formula of giving their views is not limited to a particular group only. It can be directly from yourself to the steering committee.
Yes.
It can be through your religious organization. It can be through your professional association. It can be through the BBI groups that are led by Raila Odinga or the complementary rallies whatsoever. As long as the recommendations are done and that you are a Kenyan and they are received by the BBI task force
which is your organized outfit?
My organized outfit, my organized outfit is a complementary rally.
Complementary rallies.
Or even through community constituency professional forum. Depending on any avenue that I can give it, it doesn't make sense that David Oshani thinks that we have views that are lesser than the other, depending on which group you have handed over. It doesn't matter whether you hand them to Raila Odinga or Kalonzo Musyoka or Moses Wetangula or to Uhuru Kenyatta or directly by yourself.
All right.
All the views will count.
All right. Thank you, sir. Honorable Lochi, you get the last word.
I occupy the position that DP-led Tanga parallel rallies should actually be allowed. The reason I want them to be allowed is one, we need to give them the opportunity now to come out and state what it is that they have been trying to say which they cannot say on this side. And then we can be able to call them out for what they are. And I want to point out only two. I have seen proposals that we create a 3.5% judiciary fund. A very good thing. A judiciary fund actually exists. But why hasn't it been effected? Kimani Ichung'wah sits out as the chair of the Budget and Appropriation Committee. At a time when judiciary had faced budget cuts, Kimani Ichung'wah and his wing should be telling Kenyans before they propose the 3.5, why didn't they use the position as chair to be able to champion the position and rights of the judiciary? Number two, I brought a bill into Parliament, National Youth Employment and Services Bill, to overhaul all the laws relating to youth and consolidating all these funds they call Uwezo and the Youth Fund and all these things, putting it together into a 5% fund that would be able to go into things that would empower the youth, create jobs, put things that would be able to empower the young people. It would have occasioned on the exchequer no more than 45 billion shillings, according to Kimani Ichung'wah-led Budget and Appropriation Committee. They shot it down and said that this money is too much for Treasury and the burden to bear. They now want to come and tell us that they want to put pro-people minis, and they sit there. I want them to do this parallel rally so we can call them out finally.
For who they are.
Finally, for who they are.
All right.
Finally,
are
I
out
was
of
thinking,
time.
this
The membership of the budget committee
this is closing remark and there is no right of
ODM.
reply. This is closing remark and there is no right of reply. They sit in the committees, Agriculture Committee and all these members of
including
Parliament.
ODM.
Gentlemen,
We need to have decorum. We will not destabilize it.
right there.
The issues about bei ya maziwa, bei ya kahawa, bei ya all these things, these people sit in parliament with the majority. This majority that they marshaled 170 something, they would have been able to determine tea prices, milk prices, and all these things by way of legislations without waiting for BBI.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to wind it up right there. Thank you very much. That is Honorable Anthony Oluoch, Member of Parliament, Mathare. We also are joined by Honorable Didmas Baraza, Member of Parliament, Kimilili. We have Joseph Kioko, governance expert. And last but not least, David Osiani, who's also a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the State of the Nation. But for now, we have some breaking news, which I'll hand over to Trix to just update us on what the breaking news is.
Absolutely, very interesting discussion right there, and just in line as one, or with what one of our panelists have predicted will happen. We are having a bit of breaking news this morning. The told judiciary has said that Judge John Onyego will today preside over the swearing in of James Nyoro as the new Kiambu Governor after YT2's impeachment happened yesterday. We're going to have Judge John Onyego, who will today preside over the swearing in of James Nyoro as the new Kiambu Governor after Ferdinand YT2's impeachment that happened yesterday. So this is a developing story. We're going to keep you updated. It started off, well, it was the major news across the papers, and this is the fallout following that. And of course, we did predict that